What makes a space feel wrong? You've felt it. Everyone has. You walk into an empty mall after hours, a school hallway at night, a parking garage with no cars. Something in your body changes. Your shoulders tighten. Your breathing quickens. You start looking for exits. You don't know why. The space is empty. There's nothing to fear. But your body disagrees. There's a word for this. Kenopsia. The eerie atmosphere of a place that's usually bustling with people, but is now abandoned and quiet. It was coined by the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, but the feeling predates the word by millennia. Our ancestors felt it when they entered an empty village. We feel it when we walk through a hospital at 3 a.m. The emotion is the same. The architecture changes. The dread doesn't. Here's what's happening in your brain. You have a system called the default mode network. It's always running, always scanning. When you enter a space designed for people, your brain expects people. It fills in the missing data. It expects footsteps, conversation, movement. When those things don't arrive, the system stays activated. It doesn't shut off. It escalates. Fight or flight engages in an empty room, not because there's a threat, because the absence of expected people is the threat. Your brain interprets the missing data as a signal that something has cleared the space. Something drove everyone away, and whatever did that might still be here. This is why hallways are the most frightening spaces in architecture. A hallway is not a destination. It's a transition. You pass through it. You don't stay. The brain doesn't know how to process a space that exists only as passage. When you stand in a hallway and look both directions, you see two thresholds leading to places you can't fully see. Your brain registers two potential entry points for threats, two blind spots. The geometry of a hallway is a geometry of ambush. Every horror movie knows this. Every nightmare does too. Stairwells are worse. A stairwell is a hallway turned vertical, but it adds something worse than blind spots. It adds the unknown below. When you look down a stairwell into darkness, your brain doesn't see architecture. It sees depth. It sees what could be rising from that depth. The darkness at the bottom of a stairwell isn't empty. Your brain won't accept that. It fills the darkness with shapes, with movement, with intent. Now consider what happens when you add degraded video to these spaces. When you watch an empty hallway through a VHS recording, something changes. The artifacts in the footage, the grain, the tracking errors, the color bleeding, these aren't just nostalgic. They're visual uncertainty. Your brain has to work harder to interpret what it's seeing. The green obscures detail. The tracking distortion shifts the image. The color bleed makes edges ambiguous. And in that ambiguity, your brain does what it always does. It fills in the gaps with threats, with figures, with faces in the static. This is why analog horror works. Not because it shows you something scary, because it shows you something incomplete. And your imagination, activated by the missing data, creates something far more frightening than any filmmaker could design. The grain becomes a figure in the hallway. The tracking error becomes a face in the window. The silence becomes a breath behind you. You're not watching the horror. You're generating it. The tape is just the canvas. Every empty space you've ever felt uneasy in. Every parking garage that made you walk faster. Every school hallway that felt wrong after hours. Every swimming pool with no one in it. Your brain was doing the same thing. Filling in the gaps. Generating threats from absence. Pattern recognition running on empty data. The system that kept your ancestors alive in dark forests is the same system that makes you uneasy in an empty Walmart at closing time. The architecture changes. The fear doesn't. And here's the part that should worry you. Understanding why something scares you doesn't make it less scary. It makes it worse. Because now you can see the mechanism. You know why the empty hallway triggers you. You know why the grain in old footage creates dread. You know why silence is louder than screaming. But knowing doesn't stop the system. The default mode network doesn't care about your understanding. It cares about patterns. And the pattern is clear. The space is empty. Someone should be here. They're not. Something is wrong. Something is always wrong. The empty spaces don't become safe when you understand them. They become legible. You can read the dread. You can name it. But you can't turn it off. The hallway is still empty. The lights are still flickering. The grain is still there. And somewhere in the noise between the frames, the pattern is still running. Looking for threats that aren't there. Generating shapes from absence. Filling the darkness with faces. Always filling the darkness with faces.